Hi guys, meet me again, Cindy Himawan. So today's our topic is about human resource. Okay, so along the time we already learned about the logistics side where we maintain or manage the inventory, and then we learned about the accounting side. Okay, and now we want to discuss about the human resource. Okay, so usually the human resources will be the last part uh, to be discussed. Okay, and also during the ERP implementation, usually the HR will be implemented later after all the inventory and the accounting process is going smooth. Okay, so let's start with the HR process. So basically the HR process will be differentiated into the first one is to create the organizational management, okay, whereby actually we define the structure. So in the structure we will define like the functional department. It's mean we define what is the department that will be in the company. So the functional department actually will be related with the business process. Okay, so example, if our company is a manufacturing company, of course we will have a functional department manufacturing. But let's say our company process is a retail, means we will not have any functional department manufacturing. And then the position is actually to define the structural, like the director, the assistant director, the manager, the supervisor, the staff, and so on. So that's what we call with the position. And then the job is actually to explaining, so for each position and the functional department, what will be the job description, what will be the responsible, and also what will be the required skill or required experience for each position. Okay, so example, if we define how to be the manager in a sales, so we will define what is the requirement to be a manager in the sales department. Example, need need to be graduated in sales or marketing, and then need to have how many years experience, and then do you need an English skill or a Mandarin skill, and so on. And then we'll define what will be the responsibility, like example, the manager should decide the forecasting or whatever. Okay, and then the second HR process is actually to handle the employee administration. So as I explained before, the focus of the HR is actually managing the human resources, or we call it the employee. So the first process of HR will be the recruitment, whereby the recruitment will be handled by the staff in the area of HR administrator. Okay, so the recruitment here is actually to find out who will be the who is the person who will be in the position and in the functional department. Okay, so the main task of the recruitment, okay, so to find out the suitable person, okay, based on the job description and the job requirement that already defined during the organizational management. So if you still remember, I already explained that in the organizational management we already defined like the job here, and also beside the description we also define what is the required skill or capacity. So later on, when there is a vacant or there is an empty position, then we need to do a recruitment. So the recruitment can be done internally or externally. So internally means that we want to find out the replacement person from inside organization. Example, if our manager is retired, so who will replace the manager? It can be the assistant, or it can be another manager from another department. So we can find it from the internal company, or we also can find from the candidate from external. Okay, so it's mean if we decide that we want to do the external recruitment, means we will open the vacancy. Okay, so the after the HR administrator open the vacancy, then it will publish the advertisement. So like example, we put it in the LinkedIn or in the job street and so on, and then we'll collecting the applicant data, and then we will do the profile match here. Okay, so the profile match is actually to compare between the applicant data and the required skill here. Okay, some of the sophisticated ERP, they already can do the profile match automatically, so we don't need to check it manually. It's mean we don't really need to read the CV or the resume one by one, but system can run what we call with the profile match, whereby later on the system will compare whether the applicant data really have the required skill. Example, so let's say we already defined that our job will need a GPA minimum 3.5. So when when there is an applicant with the GPA is 3.45, okay, so the system will say that this candidate is not matched because one of the requirement is not fulfilled. Okay, so later on, if the profile can be matched, then it will go to the hiring step. Usually the hiring step can be there are several steps of doing hiring, like interviewing, like doing the test and psychotestings and so on. After the hiring is done, then the final one will creating a contract data. Okay, so the contract data here doesn't mean that the contract is only valid for the contract employee, but the contract means that it's a legal document saying that we are hiring that employee. But later on, during the organizational structure, we can define whether the employee is a permanent employee, or maybe just a contractor, or maybe and also we also can define like the probation time and so on. And also we can define how much is the wage, how much the salary, the bonus and so on that we offer to the employee. Okay, so after the recruitment, then it will goes to the personal development. Okay, whereby the personal development things will be handled by the personnel development manager. Okay, usually the personnel developments will handle like if example when the employee come into our company, the skill is still basic, so we need to make sure that our employee is growing, our employee is can increase the qualification. So the personnel development manager will arrange like example, currently I join as a manager, so what I need, okay, so the personnel development manager will see what is the current qualification that I have, okay, and then what is the requirement of the position that we already defined in the organizational management. Let's say just now I say that example, I enter the company as a manager, but then later on I will be in the next 5 years maybe I can be a senior manager. So in order to be a senior manager, so what qualification that I need to fulfill? Example, maybe I need to take some certification, maybe I need to take some training, or maybe I need to upgrade my school degree. Okay, so it will goes to the personnel development manager here. And then later on, after we do the personal development here, the personal development here is actually will be related to the what we call with the talent management, okay, whereby it will introduce the development action. So we will explain to the employee what kind of training or what kind of skill that they need to do, and then after that it will also related to the training and event management. It means that it will book the training course and booking the any things that needed by the training. Example, booking the hotel, booking the accommodation, and another things. Okay, and then the personal development also will be related to the performance management. Okay, because later on when there will be a appraisal process, so we will check whether the qualification that have by the customer is already increased or not. Okay, so example, when I being recruited, my skill or my degree is only master degree, but later on after I do the personal development, I already went to training, or maybe I already upgrade my degree become doctoral. So later on the company will do the appraisal. It's mean that they will do some adjustment to my salary because now I'm already a doctor. And then so just now I already explained before that the personal development will be related with the talent management, whereby the talent management will explain, will arrange like the career planning. So the HR will explain like, so in 5 years time you should go into the senior management, and then if after that what is your career step. Okay, and then after explaining the career planning, then it also will explain like how we're going to achieve that career. Okay, so usually together with the personal development manager, the employee can explain what is the step by step to achieve that career step, and then generate the development plans, and then this one is general means like in order to be a senior manager what you need to do. Okay, but we also can generate the individual development plans. It means that the plans is really uh, the plan is actually really customized to myself. Okay, so if so between one employee and another employee, the individual development plans can be different. Okay, but for the general developments, it will be related with the position. Okay, and then the next process is about the travel management. Okay, so uh, in the company, we cannot just suddenly wants to travel, or we want suddenly to take the training. Okay, so we need to have a plan because it will be related with the budgeting of the company as well. So that's why the travel management will the travel administrator will plan the employee travel plan, so who will travel during this period, and then what is the purpose of the travel, and then what will be the expense needed, like whether they need a flight ticket or they can just use the car, and another things like whether the employee need to pay the fee of the event, or maybe whether the fee is repeatedly or only occur one time. So if the event is only like seminar, maybe the expense is only one time, right? But if the event is like going to the school, it means the expense can be repeatedly. Then it needs to be planned properly, because we need to know how much cost that will be spent for that employee. And then it will also handle the reporting. Okay, so after the employee traveling or having the training or having the event, so what will be the report? The employee need to prove whether he really going into the event or not, and then they also need to explain like what they get, what the skill or what the qualification that being updated using that event. And then after the travel management, then uh, there is another uh, management we call it the time management, whereby the travel management is only handling the occasionally event, right? So it's mean if there is a training or there is an event, then the travel management will be planned. But for the time management is actually handle the day-to-day activity, the day-to-day employee attendance, whether the employee comes to the office or not, or maybe whether whether the employee is really goes to the meeting, whether the employee is goes to the customer side. Okay, so we need to know about the customer attendance, about where is our employee. So if example our employee needed to be in the office, so how to prove their attendance? Example, can do the fingerprint, can do the scan, the badge or whatever to approve that the employee is really come to the office. And then it will also handling about the employee leaves. Okay, whereby the leaves usually will be differentiate into okay, there will be sorry So there will be the leaves that given by the company. Okay, usually the leaves, it will be depend on the company and the country also. Okay, this is what we call with the yearly leaves. Okay, atau cuti tahunan. Usually if we call in Indonesia, usually we have like 1 day leave, 1 day leave per month. So in total you will get 12 days per year. Okay, so when you take the yearly leaves, you can take the holiday and you still get paid because you take the yearly leaves. And then also you can take like sick leaves or medical leaves. So this one is when you sick. Okay, so when the employee is sick, usually the employee need to get like a medical letter from the doctor and so on to prove that the employee is really sick. And if really sick, then usually the company also have like a policy whether the company will still pay to the employee or not. And then we have another leaves like a maternity leave for a woman who just gave birth. And then in Indonesia we have like public leaves, is like cuti bersama gitu ya, yang harus misalnya kayak lebaran itu biasanya ada cuti bersama. Okay, and then overtime means that, so if leaves means you're not coming to the office, if overtime means that you will get paid because you are working more than the hours or the days that you should be. Okay, so we need to track also whether the employee is really have an overtime or not, and then we can calculate later on how much the company need to compensate on the overtime. And then there will be a head of department, department HR. Okay, whereby the head of department HR later on will doing the performance management. Okay, whereby the performance management will start with the planning. Okay, then usually for each employee during the recruitment or during the contract signing contract, usually the head of department will explaining together with the career planning. Okay, so usually the head of department will explain, so what is the planning of the performance management. So later on the performance is actually will be related with the appraisal process. So the performance management here will be start with the planning. Example like the appraisal will be done in which month. Okay, whether it is per year or maybe per 2 years. Okay, and then how the employee will be evaluated. Okay, so make sure that the employee know what is the criteria. Example, if let's say okay, I ever work with the company that they doesn't care about whether the employee is late going to the company late or not. As long as you can submit your task, then it's okay to come to the office in the afternoon. And then you can, so you basically you can adjust your own working time. Okay, so the employee know that that the company will not doing the appraisal or doing the performance checking based on the working hours. Okay, so later on during the appraisal, let's say we want to know whether the employee can get the compensation adjustment or not. Okay, can increase the salary or not. Then it will be not fair if one of the criteria is a working hours, because since the beginning we already know, and the company already say that there will be no criteria on the working hours, because basically the employee can adjust their working hours. So later on during the feedback and during the evaluation, the company should not have any checking on the working hours, but instead of checking on the working hours, the company needs to check like what is the achievement of the employee, whether the employee can fulfill their tasks or not. Okay, so that's about the performance management, starting from the planning, defining what will be the criteria of performance. So sometimes it can be called as KPI, key performance indicator, whereby uh, we define whether an employee is having a good performance or not. And then we will do the feedback, we will doing the evaluation of each employee, and then we will check whether the employee will have a compensation adjustment or not. Okay, and then the personnel controlling is actually will handle about uh, the personnel data. It's mean that whether the functional department is having enough employee or not, or maybe one department having too much employee and another department having less employee. So the personnel controlling here is actually to control or to manage, to make sure that the business process in one functional department can be handled by the personnel, by the employee or not. Okay, to make the employee staff is balanced. And then the last thing is about the payroll. So the payroll will calculate, the payroll usually will be done it can be done monthly, it can be done weekly, it depends on the company regulation. So the payroll usually will be handled by the billing clerk. Okay, and then the payroll will contain of the basic salary. So usually the basic salary will be the component of the payroll, like the basic salary, allowance, deduction, and compensation, usually already defined in the contract data when we do the recruitment phase. So the basic salary is actually what the company offer to us, and then beside the basic salary, then it will be added with the allowance. The example of the allowance is like whether we will have a transportation allowance or meal allowance or school allowance or anything. But basically allowance is something that will be increasing your salary. And then there will be also a deduction, whereby the deduction will decrease your salary. So the example of deduction is like a tax, and then in Indonesia we have like a BPJS. Okay, biasanya BPJS akan motong salary. And then example, if you take unpaid leave, okay, Unpaid leave here means that you taking holiday and you will not get a salary from the company, so it will goes to the deduction. Okay, but for overtime it will goes to allowance, yeah, because it will edit the salary. And then the compensation here, so these three things is usually will be done regularly, depends on the company payroll schedule, whether monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly, or so on. And if the compensation usually only doing periodically. Periodically here means it will be depends on the performance management here. Okay, so if the performance management will be done once per year, then the compensation also will be calculated once per year. But example, if the performance can be done like monthly basis, then it's also possible that the compensation will be calculated per month. Okay, so that's all for human resource process. So let's now go to the discussion session. Thank you.